He's got one foot in the frying pan and one in the pressure cooker. Believe me, as a bowler, I know that right about now, your bladder feels like an overstuffed vacuum cleaner bag, and your butt is kind of like an about-to-explode bratwurst.
Hey, do you mind? I wasn't talking when you were bowling.
Was I talking out loud?
Welcome to Munsons at the Movies. My name is Kyle. I'll once again be your host. I'm joined by the rest of the Munsons here for episode 100. I want to give them a wide berth.
He's what is called a born loser. A real Munson.
And talk a little bit about what's going on in their worlds. This time, we're going to start with Aubrey.
The world's pretty quiet. I will say that I am significantly more excited for this gathering than let's just say that I have been in the past. This was a lot of fun. But I also did hop into the Civil War discourse. Saw that movie recently, and that movie is awesome. Absolutely awesome. I love that movie a lot. Other than that, I'm excited.
Was that one of the upcoming projects you had for Will Ferrell? I don't know this movie.
That was not one of the upcoming projects for Will Ferrell. That was not. It was not.
All right, my bad.
You said I can't go in with any preconceived notions. What about my knowledge of the Civil War? Where does that get me started when I walk in that theater?
It will not serve you here.
Oh, okay.
If logistics are your thing in war, it's not your movie.
Or if you want to know what the Civil War is about, don't expect that either. I'll say that.
It's more about ideas.
Are there any high-profile Morse code operators in this movie?
No.
Does this movie make a delineation between it being about slavery or it being about the freedom of states to choose?
To choose slavery. Just so we're on the same page. We'll toss it over to Case.
To celebrate the 100th episode, I decided I would jump to the internet to get some feedback about our top 5 episodes.
Ooh.
This is titled The Top 5 Munsons Episodes According to Bard, which is Google's AI. I think you guys are going to appreciate this. All right, so these are ranked in order from 1 to 5. Number 1 is episode number 3, Bill Murray featuring Scott Aukerman. Expect witty banter, insightful discussions, and plenty of laughs, boys. I don't remember that episode, but I'm glad we did it. Here are some of the other highlights. Episode number 20, Tom Hanks.
Oh, yeah.
Episode number 42, Harrison Ford, where we discuss his iconic roles like Indiana Jones, Han Solo, and other lesser-known gems. Episode 71, featuring Chip Hessenflow. Listeners praise this episode for its in-depth discussion of her filmography, her transition from modeling, and her perseverance in the industry. And then finally, episode number 5, Steve Buscemi, featuring Dan Craig. And this says, this episode boasts a special guest appearance by James Bond himself, Daniel Craig.
Nice.
Together with Daniel Craig, we dissect the unique career of Steve Buscemi. Episode number 1, Nicolas Cage. The debut episode sets a tone for the podcast humor and analytical approach. Episode number 25, Christopher Lee. And I, for one, am glad we did this episode. Episode number 50, Jeff Goldblum. So we're really making a difference out there in the internet, boys, and really proud of all the work we've put together.
Still can't believe we got Daniel Craig. That was a huge gift for us.
Yeah, what a get for us. For real.
Yeah, and then we had to step down for Matti. I mean, what are we doing over here? Like,
Well, it was the Steve Buscemi episode, so we had to go big. So we've done some work, boys, and that Nick Cage episode kicked it all off. I'm just happy to be here for 100 episodes.
James.
Will Ferrell Jr. is now potty training, and she's turning 2 here shortly. Everyone I tell is incredibly impressed that she's potty training, and I realized that I am embarking on the journey where I take pride and credit for things that I had very little to do with involving my child and her life and her success, because she started doing it on her own accord, and we just kind of helped foster that. But I'm really looking forward to when she does more things like this in the future, and I totally get to take credit for it because it feels good. It does feel good to kind of rub it in other people's faces, not going to lie.
Good job, James. We're proud of you.
Yeah, I did a lot. I really did.
This is great parenting. This is great top-tier parenting.
Yeah, there's no way it backfires, right?
I just want you guys to know the start of the year of the spring marks my annual battle against all things weeds in my backyard. And I'm daily in going an onslaught of different tricks of the trade, some weed killers, weed whacking, some angry words shouted at the yard. The rain is not my friend. It's April showers is bringing April flowers at this moment in time, but I'm losing. And I just want you all to know I'm humbled by this, once again, losing battle, but I think I'm better for it.
Dude, it's the joys of home ownership.
Well, we're excited to bring back Matti Groll for episode 100. He is formerly a host of a weekly movie review podcast, and he now focuses on creating gaming content on YouTube and Twitch. He now does content creation full-time. He still loves to podcast and considers it an honor to be welcomed back to the Munsons to talk about movies and TV. Those are his words, not mine. He wrote it in there. He also said he is like the sexiest guy possible. I had to take that out. That just didn't seem like it would fit for this. So after what Jay did last time, we just couldn't keep throwing that in. But he was previously with us for the Sam Rockwell, Chris Hemsworth, Haley Steinfeld, and John Slattery episode. So he's back for number 5 and the big one, 100. How we going, Manny?
I mean, maybe this one will be in Google's top 5 Munson podcasts episodes. Maybe. I'm hoping for it. I was a little offended that none of those were in the Bard thing. So I guess, big shoes to fill. I was informed approximately 3 minutes ago that this is episode 100. So I hope all the listeners are very excited for the type of quality and prep that I will bring to this very special episode. Congratulations on 100 episodes, guys. That's awesome.
Appreciate that.
You've been part of 5% of them, so you're in on it too, buddy.
Yeah.
I do play the Pokemon Go, and I told this to the guys before of one day, in my little group chats, they were chatting about things that were happening, and they mentioned Flygon was posting on his YouTube channel about the things, and I was like, oh yeah, bitches, I know him. I know Flygon. I know his real name, motherfuckers. What's up? He's a doctor. Dr. Groll.
That's awesome. That's very flattering.
To be honest, it's been cool to kind of watch your journey, because we've kind of seen like the development of this since you've been a guest over the past 3.5 years or whatever it's been.
Yeah.
And so it started as a thing, and now it's like I have friends who don't know you but know you, and I just think it's really weird.
It's crazy. I love coming back too, especially because we don't do it so often that it feels like it's like it's like meeting up with old friends, and it's crazy to hear that James's daughter is turning 2. Like,
right, dude?
That's wild. It's just like every time I come back, it's like, oh, James has a whole new life. It's crazy. It's so awesome.
Well, I just need this child actor thing to start paying dividends here,
Oh, yeah.
Did you watch Annette? You could probably take some tips from Annette and you out with her.
I've watched enough movies and documentaries to know that is a bad life decision for a lot of people. Vast majority of people.
Glad to have you back, Matti. Excited to get into this conversation about who is a pretty solid actor. And you ready to rock?
Do it.
Birthdays, May 2nd. We got some good ones here. So first and foremost, we got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, known for obviously being The Rock in all the WWF days, Jumanji, Baywatch, the Fast and Furious movies, other guys where he takes an unceremonious dip to the ground that we've talked about recently, Central Intelligence, Black Adam, and Scorpion King. How old is The Rock?
You saved the best for last on that little list there?
Black Adam and Scorpion King, the 2 gems on his filmography.
No Moana shout out. That's just mean.
No.
He's a prolific dude. To be honest, he had a lot on his IMDb, and I think I just forgot it, to be completely honest with you. So, how old is Dwayne?
Fresh off of return to the WWE also. WrestleMania. I think he's 51. Wrestler thing, I think.
Whatever's the age where you gain 50 pounds of muscle and lose all your fat. So
37 maybe for us, hopefully.
46. I can't wait for it to happen to me.
I'm going to go 55.
55? I hope he's not 55. I'm going to go 42.
All right. Aubrey's winning this one because he's turning 52.
52?
Wrestler thing, guys. They're always older than you think they are. Mm-hmm. They're always older than you think they are.
They're usually dead by 52.
It's the bald head.
You think they're younger than they are, but it's like, nope. It took them 15 years to get here.
Next up, we have a former Munson, Christine Baranski. Wonderful actress. We covered her and talked about projects like Mamma Mia, Chicago, Bowfinger, which I loved her in. How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Bad Moms Christmas, a lot of Christmas movies, and The Good Fight. How old is Christine Baranski? Great episode with Crystal Clark. Definitely check it out.
61. I'm just shooting my shot.
Google didn't love that episode, so I don't remember it.
I do. Christine Baranski is amazing. Love her. Also, obviously, it's very clear. She's 25.
Naturally. She's hilarious in The Ref. Again, another movie Kyle refuses to acknowledge the greatness of.
I haven't seen it yet. I'll get to it.
No, I even tried to annoy you this holiday season.
I know.
Let's say she is 58.
I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to go 60.
Monty wins. She's turning 72.
Oh my God.
Look at her. Looking great.
You're all very nice people. Very nice people.
72?
Looks great.
Yeah.
So like in The Grinch, she's like 50?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm proud of you all for being so nice. Let's finish this one up with Ellie Kemper, best known for The Office, Bridesmaids, 21 Jump Street, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. That's probably the big one. And the Today Show. How old is Ellie Kemper?
I want to say she's like exactly my age. I'm thinking 35.
I think she's older.
You mean 38.
Okay, if you go 38, I'll go 40.
In a GIF you shared, Kyle, she's uncomfortably raising the roof. So I'm going to say that makes her at least 46.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say somebody won. And that somebody is a 2-time winner tonight. And it's not Aubrey, it's Matti, because she's turning 44.
Yes.
Happy birthday to those individuals and anybody else who had a birthday on May 2nd. Here lies episode 100. And we had 5 actors that we threw onto the wheel, including Larry Fishburne, Sam Neill, William Forsythe, and Diane Ladd. But it didn't matter because the wheel selected Adam Driver, and Matti decided to come hang out with us and talk about Adam Driver. Adam's got 53 credits on his resume. He's got 2 Oscar nominations in that time. He's got a couple producer credits and a few soundtrack credits. So mostly acting up to this point. A little bit off the screen, a little bit and a lot on the screen. So we'll do our best to kind of talk about the highlights. We'll discuss the things we really liked, the things we hated, and some of those pieces in between in a chronological format. But before we do that, we always stop for a second to see if James can stump us with some trivia, Fast and Furious style.
What I'm going to do here is I'm going to read 3 facts, 2 of which are going to be true about Adam Driver, one of which is not going to be true about Adam Driver, but is going to be true about one of the cast members of the Fast and Furious franchise. Gentlemen here are going to have to guess which one that is. Fact number 1. His grandfather was the captain of the Harvard baseball and football team before being drafted to the MLB, where he played 8 seasons for the Red Sox, Phillies, and White Sox. Fact number 2. While serving the United States Marine Corps, he missed active duty in Iraq on account of a mountain biking accident in which he broke his sternum. Fact number 3. Despite not having enough money to cover his own rent at the time, he spent the entirety of his first paycheck from acting on a pair of Jordans.
I hope that's true.
Since this is the 100th episode, I'm going to go back to my old school philosophy of wordplay and nameplay. And I'm going to say that fact 3 is actually about Minnie Driver, not Adam Driver.
Is Minnie Driver Fast and Furious movie?
No.
Good Will Hunting is a prequel.
I don't think I'm right, but we'll see.
He just makes up his own rules.
I also think number 3 is not correct. I feel like number 2, I'm very confident is correct because I know he was in the U.S. military.
Yeah.
I don't see Adam Driver wearing Jordans, honestly, but I'm happy to be proven wrong.
I'm going to go fact 1, and I'm going to say it's obviously T-Pain.
Ooh.
Was T-Pain in a Fast and Furious movie?
He was a DJ in Furious 7.
Was he really?
Was he really?
All right. Well, you didn't get it right because both James are like, what? Huh?
Yeah, James. Way to help me out, James.
I'm sorry, I could have been using T-Pain facts for a while.
Teddy
here.
Pendergrass could have been a choice all along. I'm pretty confident 2 and 3 are Adam Driver, so I think by removing some options here, fact 1 has to be the lie. And I think it's about our dude that was just on Hot Ones, and that's Christopher Bridges, a.k.a. Ludacris.
Ludo.
I think his dad was an athlete, and that episode was not nearly as funny as the Conan O'Brien episode, but still pretty good.
Couldn't suggest the Conan one more. But guys, great guesses. Everyone seems pretty confident about fact number 2. And They're correct. While serving in the U.S. Marine Corps, he missed active duty in Iraq on account of a mountain biking accident, which took place almost just a few weeks before actual deployment. Shortly after the September 11 attacks, a driver enlisted in the Marine Corps. He was assigned to a weapons company, 1st Battalion, 1st Marines, and he served 2 years and 8 months before fracturing his sternum. He was medically discharged with the rank of Lance Corporal, and he says that he took a lot of what he learned in the military into acting. Acting was his first choice, and he kind of got denied, which we'll talk about later. He kind of got denied as he was doing the journey to LA and trying to get into Juilliard. And then he went into the military after 9/11, and he loved it. He found purpose in his life. And after he got discharged, he was kind of lost, and he didn't have that purpose. And when he started to try acting again, you can read the stories, they're out there. He could not really adjust to normal civilian life. And it's a lot of stories about people being like, yeah, the talent is there. He's an incredible actor. That dude is just mean. He's tough to be around. And he's like, I didn't think I was being mean. I just thought that's how people spoke to one another. It's like, it took me a while to adjust that, like, hey, yelling directly at someone is not okay in normal life. He actually did a whole TED Talk on it, which is really fascinating.
Yeah, it's a cool TED Talk. By the way, Case, any notions we had that he hurt himself in a lightsaber training activity, and that's why he had to leave the Marines, I think just got dashed.
Dang it.
Unfortunately.
Fact number 3, despite not having enough money to cover his own rent, he spent the entirety of his first paycheck from acting on a pair of Jordans. That is true. He got his first quote-unquote big paycheck from Law and Order, which is a rite of passage for everyone who's acting in New York City. Family, he wasn't poor, but they didn't have money for Jordans. And he said he always looked at them as like the pinnacle of wealth. And he went out and he didn't do any research into what, the coolest pair was. He just went and bought the most expensive pair he could afford. And he was like, this is my way of being like, I made it. And then he, again, is not a sneakerhead or anything like that. And he's like, I never wore them because I was afraid I was going to mess them up. It's like, and now they just collect dust on my mantelpiece. They kind of look like a trophy. And every time he tells that story, talk show hosts are like, you got to wear him. He's like, no, it's not like that. At this point, I'm more scared I'm going to do anything to him. And so they just sit there collecting dust. But I do respect blowing your paycheck on Jordans like that. He went out of his way to be like, so I've gotten the question a lot. And he's like, they're not 1s or 4s or 5s. He's like, I got to look into what they are. He's like, but they're not the ones that everyone's trying to get. He's like, it was whatever was available in the store at that moment.
That's hilarious.
Fact number 1, his grandfather was captain of the Harvard baseball and football team before being drafted to the MLB, where he played 8 seasons for the Red Sox, Phillies, and White Sox. We're talking about the famous left-handed outfielder Tony Lupian, who had 18 career home runs over that course of 8 years. While he was also an MLB star, he was more famously the grandfather of Fast 9 star John Cena, a.k.a. Jacob Toretto. Adam Driver's family is a very normal Midwestern family, not a lot of athletes in his family. John Cena, you wouldn't be shocked. He's got a couple pro athletes down the line.
Makes sense.
Cena's good in those movies. Cena's fun.
Oh, yeah.
I'm shocked it wasn't Minnie Driver. I'm kind of disappointed.
Minnie Driver is going to be the baddie in Fast 11. You watch. It's going down. Shit's happening.
I hope so.
She'd rule. All right, Case, tell us a little bit about his snapshot in box office.
This was a fun one for a couple of reasons. One, he doesn't have a ton of movies, so that was nice. And he's got some big numbers on both sides. So let's get into that a little bit. One of the reasons that he has such impressive numbers is that he did a great job of manicuring a really successful filmography. His project selection has been good enough for him to be our highest ranked critic performer with 78.5 and the 7th highest fan ranked performer at 69.9. Further, he's been in some massive movies, landing him 22nd on the total box office ranking. And of course, that's courtesy of the Star Wars franchise bump. A Force Awakens has the 2nd largest budget, 2nd highest opening weekend, and 2nd highest world gross of any movie we've looked at. However, not all of his movies have made money. Initially, I had him down for the biggest loss in Munson's history when I discovered White Noise was a film that was budgeted for $145 million and only world gross $72,000. However, after some quick research, what happened was That was a movie that Netflix was trying to get some awards love for. So they had it out on a limited run in the movie theaters.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it out, right? I'm like, okay, this is gonna help him a lot. Well, not really, because then it dropped him down to the 10th highest losing film in Munson's history with The Last Duel.
Good movie.
The Last Duel had a $100 million budget. It only world grossed 31. Problem with this movie is it came out during COVID. When they finally released it, it was set aside the Bond movie, No Time to Die. So the studio quickly said, look, let's get it out of the theaters. So they got it onto streaming, and it just wasn't in the theaters very long, but it still counts as his biggest loss and our 10th biggest loss. Here are the numbers that we compare everyone against for 100 episodes. He's 33rd in Star Meter, 1st and 7th in critic and fan ranking, respectively, 80th and 68th in 2 different box office metrics. Putting it all together, he comes in at 28th out of 100.
Thought it'd be higher.
The Star Meter thing kind of messes me up a bit because you would think Kylo Ren would be a little bit higher.
That changes all the time, though, right?
Well, it's one of those things where I think part of what I don't want to step too much on this, but part of what I think happened is the Rise of Skywalker and the Star Wars stuff didn't hit as strong as it should have. And I know it's different times, but there's Star Wars characters that rode Star Wars almost their entire career. That is essentially what they're known for.
All of them?
Yeah, it's the type of thing that would bump you permanently. Like Star Meter is one of those things I just imagine it's like name recognition. And because he's Kylo Ren, I would imagine would never fall out of name recognition. Everyone knows who that person is. And so that just, it's interesting that he falls there.
Driver's got a fascinating box office snapshot, and I'm excited to hear our discussion tonight.
So appreciate you, Case.
Yeah, man.
All right, early days of Adam Driver before we get into some roles. Born in San Diego in 1983. Making mental note if we ever cover an episode and it's Adam Driver's birthday, you can do the math on that one in the future, fellas.
Was he a fan of the local news broadcaster, Ron Burgundy?
It's possible. He's also could be a big fan of some women who work in pharma there, too. You never know. He moved to Indiana, Mishawaka, Indiana, at 7 years old. It's a small town, probably about an hour and a half from Indianapolis, kind of out in the middle of it. So it's kind of cool. Got the San Diego and Indiana connection.
Go cavemen, the fight in maroon and white.
Right. I actually have a buddy I play hockey with that he works in Mishawaka, so it's just kind of like a weird connection. He's a nurse. He's like a male nurse up there.
A male nurse?
He is a male nurse. Yeah. Doing his thing.
Are you serious? Is their mascot the cavemen?
Yeah, the caveman. And they are maroon and white.
Growing up, he was a busy dude. He did a lot of stuff. So he sang in the Baptist church choir. He was a self-described teenage misfit. You know, when you're bored in Mishawaka, you're climbing radio towers, you're doing some pyro, you start a fight club at high school, whatever you got to do to keep yourself busy up there. And he also was in a lot of drama productions in high school, which is what led him into the world of acting, which eventually led him to applying to go to Juilliard. And per James's mention, didn't get in, right? Before he joined the Marines, he was just doing odd jobs. He was a door-to-door salesman for vacuum cleaners. He was a telemarketer.
It's so weird to hear a traveling salesman for vacuum cleaners is still a thing, like in the early 2000s. Like, what?
After he graduated high school, he attempted to do the classic Hollywood dream of driving to LA and pursuing his acting career. When he was leaving by car, his car eventually broke down in Amarillo, Texas, and he spent the remainder of his money fixing said car and could only make it to Santa Monica, where he lived in a hostel there for about 48 hours while he was roaming the beach and didn't realize he was getting scammed by a real estate agent who was trying to find him an apartment but actually wasn't. And that's when he realized he didn't have enough money to live. And so he made it about 2 days in the state of California and about a week away from home before he returned home and said, looks like I'm joining the military.
Rough start, for sure. Joins the Marines after 9/11, like you said, medical discharge. Then he enrolled at University of Indianapolis here locally and was working at a Target here in town when he had reapplied to Juilliard and got accepted the second time around. He met his wife in 2009 and got his bachelor's of fine arts at Juilliard.
He also says he gives her credit for being the one that kind of get him to turn the marineness off of while he was acting, because he's like, I was making people I was working, like I was trying to act with cry, and it wasn't cry with emotion during the scene. It was cry before and after the scene when we were trying to work together. And he's like, I would just essentially be barking orders at people. And my wife was the one who had to like soften me up and be like, hey, that doesn't work here. Like, you need to come back to reality for a second. He gives her a lot of the credit for turning him into someone who could work with other actors.
Is she also an actor?
Yes, I think at the time when they first met, she was in Juilliard for ballet.
Okay.
But she's also an actor as well.
So as he's finishing up Juilliard, right, going to school out there, he decides to move full-time to New York City and start acting. And he, like a lot of actors, starts performing in stage productions. He gets his start on the theater side. His first TV show appearance was in an episode of The Unusuals in 2009. So that would have made him, 26? And then did an episode of Law and Order, like James mentioned, in 2010. So at 27 is kind of when he hit the big time, we'll say, and got those Jordans on his feet. His first film was the Al Pacino TV movie classic, You Don't Know Jack, about Jack Kevorkian, Dr. Death from Michigan. We covered that in the Susan Sarandon episode, but he essentially plays a character they're interviewing who is one of the individuals it's an assisted suicide film.
HBO movie, right?
Yeah, well regarded.
That was a big deal. Pacino just getting into a HBO movie was a big deal at that time.
You get to act in a scene early on in your career with Pacino and Sarandon, not bad. Not bad at all.
Let's do it.
A year later, he appeared in J. Edgar alongside Leo as Walter Lyle.
Same makeup or different makeup?
I would imagine they probably change out the makeup in between roles there.
Just trying to keep up.
Gets itchy after a while, It's not good for your skin. And then goes back to the Law and Order side, but this side to the Stabler Ice-T world of Law and Order SVU, and does an episode of that in 2012.
I believe in his own words, he said in all the Law and Order episodes he was in, he played a creep. And that he's like, I didn't realize it was actually foreshadowing for a lot of the roles I played in my career up until this current point.
So those Law and Order casting people are spot on, is what you're saying.
But what we're going to call his first major role is a role where he's not a creep, and that's his role as Lev in Francis Ha, a movie that Matti will get the luxury of being able to review.
So this is directed by Noah Baumbach. It stars Greta Gerwig. It feels like it was directed by Greta Gerwig, but it was just co-written by the both of them. And this is a film about a 27-year-old amateur / trying to be pro dancer she's basically just trying to get through life. It's a very, very slice of life, very quaint movie. There's not a lot of plot. It's almost just sort of like a series of vignettes in this person's life. She's kind of a disaster. She's kind of cringy in some ways, in the same way that everybody was in that sort of like post-college, young adulthood time of your life. And so the film is structured by the different places that she lives. She kind of like moves from apartment to apartment, just trying to make enough money to live in New York. And I think it's the second place that she lives, is with these two guys. One of them is Adam Driver. The other one is Michael Zegan from Marvelous Miss Maisel. He plays Joel Maisel. And Adam Driver is in the movie for, I would say, 15 minutes-ish, which is kind of a lot of the movie since it's only like 87 minutes. But I think he's really good in it. He's very winning instantly. He's already got that sort of like long, lanky frame that is very iconic of him. He's very winning. He's very charming in the film in ways that he gets to be, I think, later in his career more than earlier in his career. I haven't seen Girls, so please somebody correct me, like if he's very charming in that.
What makes his character stand out in Girls is it's complex, but charming is not what you would call it.
Yeah, he's like a prick, right?
A charming moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a fuckboy in Francis Ha, but he's a very charming, winning fuckboy. He's a very New York fuckboy in his sort of like, oh, you think you're more hot shit than you actually are. He makes a splash. He gets a lot of good lines. I think the film is very, very well written. And so he gets to say a lot of just sort of witty things. I'm still kind of surprised from this and from Girls how you get Kylo Ren, honestly. But I do see a lot of, kind of his SNL skits that he has a couple really famous SNL skits. I don't know if famous, but I find them really funny.
Oh, yeah.
And you see that in this movie a lot, sort of.
This character is a very complicated one for me to watch for reasons we can talk about when we get to Girls. But she walks the balance of it being interesting and like winning, and I can connect to her. And also being like, okay, figure it out. Like she walks the line there really well.
Yeah.
And that makes this movie work. I think Driver's great in this because it's a funny thing to juxtapose him to even his While We're Young character, because they're all like versions of the same person. This one is the best version because he has probably, 4 opportunities to be a terrible person and he never takes them. And then I think that's what allows him to just constantly be charming. And so I find it interesting that he was written that way. It's just a great performance. It shows you early what he's capable of.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
The interesting part for me in this film is the connection to Baumbach and Greta Gerwig, which led to Marriage Story, White Noise, just other projects. I think that it's pretty clear they enjoyed working with him in this, even though it was a smaller part. And it got him probably his most award recognized role down the way later in his career. Well, we talked about it a couple times, so we might as well transition to it. The other role that he takes on right around the same time that we could have called first major role, but we'll just kind of package deal this together, and that's his role as Adam Sackler on Girls. Between 2012 and 2017, he was in 49 episodes, including 3 Primetime Emmy noms. And I feel like Aubrey has a few things to say about this character.
It's less the character and more the show. So I started watching it again. I tried to watch this. My wife was a fan of the show. She watched it when it was running, I think, and I watched it or a little bit after that, towards the end, I guess. But I started watching it for a little bit. I gave up around season 2. I'm just like, this isn't for me. There's nothing really here for me. There's no reason for me to watch it. I watched it again for this because I was interested to revisit Girls since Lena Dunham has had her fall, I guess. She's just fallen out of grace with
the spotlight.
Yeah.
everyone. So I'm interested to see this because Girls was received huge. This was regarded as one of the great television series of this time, and that Lena Dunham was one of the great voices of this time, all this kind of stuff. So I was really interested to see how it played now. And I don't like this show at all.
Oh, that's not what I expected.
I don't like it at all. Everything that Frances Ha is what Girls wishes it could be or wanted to be. So all of the accessibility, all of the connection, all of like the intrigue is all lost in Girls because these people, for the most part, are all terrible people. They all make really bad choices. They're all very selfish and self-centered. And my biggest issue is that I don't understand if they know that or not from a creative standpoint. So like Lena Dunham in the first episode says to her parents that she's the voice of her generation. And it's played as a joke. But the longer she goes in the series, I don't know if it's a joke or not. And so it's hard for me to connect with these like well-off white women who are struggling only because they're making poor choices. And so I just have a hard time with that. Adam Driver is the most interesting person in this show. He starts off terrible. He's a horrible person in the first couple episodes. And then there's a turn. And the turn is relatively subtle, which I think is a huge points for him. It's a subtle turn, but he becomes endearing. I wouldn't necessarily call him charming, but he becomes endearing. He becomes someone I want to see. I'm interested in his growth. He's going through things and he's embracing those things in the way that I wish all of the other characters were doing. But I think this show is a mess. And if I'm being ungenerous, it's like white privilege, the TV show.
Yeah.
I'm not really here for that.
I was living in the Upper East Side when this show came out, and I did a couple episodes rewatch, and I remember it was a huge thing at the moment, but then I also remember people couldn't really separate the show from Lena Dunham and all kind of the dumb shit she was saying publicly while it was going on. And I think this show suffers from the fact that one of the initial strengths of the show is it's clearly written in a style where it's the characters are based on real people or real personality traits. And so these actors are playing either themselves or someone they know or a version of themselves, similar to like Louis C.K. in Louis. And what happens similar to him is when those people start doing dumb things in real life, people start looking at the art a little differently, where you're like, wait, are you this kind of ignorant, privileged person? Like, or is this a character? Because you're coming across like that in real life. And I found it fascinating to rewatch it, where like the initial complaints people had about it were spot on, which is it's all white people. There's no like main characters that aren't white, but there's also like no tertiary characters that aren't white. It's just a white cast in New York City, which is rare and difficult to do unless you're like the first season of Friends. It's not a real representation of the city. But what I did like about it is I think the show really thrives because it's like the first show that shows the uncomfortableness of people that age who are making stupid decisions, who are in toxic relationships, who are, see obvious warning signs. The example being Adam Driver's character treats Lena Dunham like shit for the first half of the season, to the point where you're like, this dude's taking advantage of this girl, and she's letting it play out in front of everyone, and it's very uncomfortable. And I think what makes his character kind of pop off the screen is that turn you had mentioned, is how subtle it is and how subtly it's written, where it's like this guy clearly has anger issues and he could freak out at any moment, but you're kind of pulling for him in some scenes and you're kind of wishing the worst on him in others. And there is a gray area and a nuance to it. And it makes sense that he was like the star that shot out of that show. But I did find that my initial thoughts on Adam Driver still were pretty true, where it's like, yeah, he's kind of a dirtbag, but I want to see more of him. I want to know more. I want to see what happens. And
from a pop culture standpoint, his character showed up in The Simpsons 3 years into the run in a very short snippet. So his character had some pop culture relevance.
The only thing I saw in that was I saw the Simpsons reference. So I thought Adam Sackler was a play on Adam Sandler. And so this whole time I've been shocked to hear that Adam Sackler is a legitimate character from Girls.
Is it? I don't know. Is it? It's got to be legitimate, right?
Yeah, that's his name.
Okay.
When I was reading the notes, I thought that exact thing.
That's his character's name in the show.
And it's not a play on Adam Sandler or shampoo or conditioner?
No.
All right. I stand corrected.
Lincoln, 2012, the Daniel Day-Lewis vehicle we talked about in the JGL episode. So many, many moons ago, he plays Samuel Beckwith. He's like basically transcribes some of Lincoln's thoughts in one scene. Small, very small role.
He learned Morse code for this movie. Had flashcards and everything.
Oh, what necessary.
One of the few times he got to use some military skills in a film.
His role in this movie is like James and I's conversation about Girls. It was long, unnecessary, and will not be in the actual final product for longer than 2 seconds.
Morse code's underrated. I'm going to take that hot take right now. Morse code is underrated, and I think it's coming back.
I feel like it's properly rated.
Underrated.
This movie is incredible, by the way. Just real quick, this movie is incredible.
It is. It's a very good movie. Yep. Love Lincoln. It's fantastic.
Exceptional Morse code in this movie, too.
Fuck off. Another great movie, though. I mean, the project choice here is excellent. Inside Llewyn Davis. He plays Al, one we referenced on the F. Murray Abraham a couple episodes ago. Outer space. You get to see some singing, baby.
Yeah, he's funny.
He hated his performance in the movie so bad, he does not watch any movie. He's never watched any movie after this, except he was forced by contract to watch the Star Wars movies, and it made him sick. So because of his performance in this movie, which I thought was hilarious and ruled, he does not like watching himself on film.
I respect that. I do the same thing with programs I plan.
Yeah.
I play in the program, the speakers. I do not sit in the room. I have no interest in that.
He said at this point, he'll, at screenings for his movies where industry types show up and they all give standing ovations and whatnot afterwards, is he'll sit down and wait till the theater gets dark, excuse himself, and leave for 2 hours and come back before the credits roll. He's like, I can't do it.
I don't blame him.
I think that's hilarious.
It's worth some points on the Munson Meter right there. Also, he got a Critics' Choice nom for Best Song for his performance with JT and Oscar Isaac and that. So that's pretty cool.
Song's hilarious.
I mean, yeah, his scene is very funny.
Hey, Mr. Kennedy.
And even the part where Oscar Isaac's character is like, "Hey, can I come stay with you?" And he's like, "I guess." You know, like it's just
So nonchalant.
It's so funny and unemotional.
Wearing his cowboy hat. He married his wife Joanne in 2013. They've since had 2 children together. Seem like a happy couple. Again, pretty rare, I feel like, in that space to see a no drama. James, could you find any drama with the relationship? I couldn't find shit.
No, the only drama is that people found out that they had 2 kids.
Yeah, he was like, fuck, I've been trying to keep that from you people.
Because I've been trying to hide my family the entire time.
Yeah, he's a pretty private guy based on everything I could find. This Is Where I Leave You. He played Philip. Kind of a wacky character comparatively to a lot of the other stuff he did. I rewatched this movie. He could pop off at any time because he's probably got some multiple personality disorder things going on there that is probably undiagnosed, but decent movie.
I remember it as one of those movies. There's like a ton of great A-list cast people in it, and the movie just didn't work. That's what I remember about it, is it didn't come together very well.
Yeah, they all come back for their father's funerals. Jane Fonda plays the matriarch of the family. Tina Fey, Corey Stoll, Catherine Hahn, Connie Britton, Timothy Olyphant, Dax Shepard. I mean, just like massive cast. His character's kind of unique and different, which I enjoyed. Well, let's go to largest critic gap, which is 2014's While We're Young. He plays Jamie, and Case has it.
While We're Young is a 2014 dramatic comedy about a couple in their 40s, Josh and Cornelia. Josh is played by Ben Stiller. Cornelia is played by Naomi Watts. They meet a couple named Jamie and Darby. Darby is played by Amanda Seyfried, and Jamie is played by the man of the hour, Adam Driver. The film is one of several collaborations that we've already talked about with Driver and director Noah Baumbach. After what seems to be a serendipitous meeting between Josh and the young couple, the couples, Ben Stiller and his wife Naomi Watts, start hanging out with Jamie and Darby a lot, and it kind of spices up their life a little bit, and they get introduced to this younger kind of hipster culture. But the newfound friendship between the two couples takes a turn for the awkward when Stiller starts adopting a younger persona to fit in, even lying about his age, and most notably wearing a annoying hat. It was enraging, and I was glad in the movie when somebody finally called him on it. As for Driver, our star of the show, I think he handles this role really well. He has the opposite turn in this, where he, about halfway through the movie, you start like questioning his motivations, start rising to the surface of being a little bit, not necessarily nefarious, but counter to how he's presenting himself. I really like his role and his performance in it. A lot of times in movies like this that I've never seen or I like them, I have this attitude of, if anybody else did this, I don't think it would be as good. I can't say this about this particular movie. I think this character is well written, and I think he performs it well, but I wouldn't say no one else could do this, but I do think it's really good. Overall, I enjoyed the movie. As you guys know, I'm usually a critic guy, so I normally side on the side of critics, and this is going to be the same. I'm trying to figure out why 51% of audience didn't enjoy this movie.
Yeah, because it splits 84-51.
Aubrey, you got any thoughts?
I can give you some insight on that. So I will preface this with I like this movie. Ooh. I think it's good. It's a little under where it probably should be. And so it's a good, not great type situation. Mm-hmm. Some of the commentary is a bit on the nose early in the movie when they're having the conversation with their like older, or should I say same-aged married couple friends. And it's like, when one person picks up the phone, everybody picks up their phone. Why is that? And it turns into this like really bad comedy bit about technology for, 35 seconds. There's some of that, which I find it was disappointing. I thought it would be a little bit more insightful on that. I also think the actual plot is a bit flimsy. The documentary, the commentary on like documentaries and younger generations not caring anymore, it doesn't really hold up all that well. I think the most of the stuff that works is in the couples and what they're individually going through. I do find it interesting that Noah Baumbach is basically skewering like the whole hipster ideal. He's making fun of it. It seems like the entire movie, which I find almost ironic.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff works. It really worked for me. Amanda Seyfried is great. I wish this movie gave her more things to do. Naomi Watts is great. Ben Stiller is in a really good space in terms of balancing the comedy and stuff. And Adam Driver is wonderful. I think those four carry it.
Yeah.
And when you kind of start to pull back the layers of what's actually going on and how they're trying to talk about it, I think it falls a little flat there. Maybe the reason why the audience didn't love it is because the intended audience is the people that were getting made fun of for the entire movie. That's probably my guess.
That's what I was thinking too. A lot of times it was Adam Driver's character pointing out how ridiculous some of these things were. Frequency starts picking up. And so then all of a sudden you start going, hold on, this is different than what you think it is. And so the turn in his character is so subtle. And then all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, I don't like this guy. Fun movie to watch from that perspective.
His characters begin to change after this.
Yeah.
And so this is like, it's a variation of the same person, which also speaks to his quality and ability because it's a variation of the same person without it feeling repetitive.
Interesting.
Similar typecast early in his career like this, for sure. Granted, he's in a lot of Baumbach stuff. So
how many is it? Is it total? Is it 4 or 5 or 6 or how many?
I think it's 5.
5? Okay.
I think it's 5. Could be wrong though. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong there. So we do have a review of a Star Wars film coming up later. So I want to kind of carve that out for when we get there, because I'm sure Aubrey's got some fun planned. So let's at least briefly discuss his introduction as Kylo Ren in Star Wars The Force Awakens in 2015, a role that earned him a Best Villain nod from the MTV side of things. That is credentialing.
We don't see Adam Driver until there's 55 minutes left of the movie. He's having to use a different muscle in this movie, make you interested in who he is. So I think that's a really cool thing that we've not seen very often and other people we've looked at. And he offs Max von Sydow real fast.
Poor guy.
It's the only movie we have where 2 Munsons battle with lightsabers.
Sometimes diplomats got to go.
So far.
There you go.
So far, that's a good point.
At this rate, we'll get 4 by episode 200, and we'll also
Wait for that Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen.
Oh boy,
Munson.
deep cuts on the list there.
I'm out.
Did Portman get lightsabered? I'm not sure.
She just got her heart broken.
You tear me apart.
I'll say that I like the twist that they put on the character, generally speaking, compared to Darth Vader. When you're introduced to Darth Vader, he is like evil incarnate, and he's the biggest badass on Earth, and you can't really reason with, essentially, the devil. And when you meet Kylo Ren, he's kind of like a moody version where it's like, he's like a kind of a bitch a little bit. But like no one says that to him because he's shown that he's ruthless, but it's like he's dealing with inner demons. And I kind of like the twist that they put on it where it's, Darth Vader's wearing the helmet because he's disfigured. Why are you wearing this helmet? You're just like a big fan. Is that what's going on here? And he's like, just don't ask questions about the helmet. All right. Don't do that. I like that. I like that twist on the character.
I think this character is the best thing in the prequel or the sequel series. Like,
agreed.
I really like what they did with him for 2.5 movies or what, like, but especially in the first one, I think it's just a really different type of villain, especially for like a big blockbuster series like this, to go from something as like menacing as Darth Vader, and like Darth Maul is honestly very similar to Darth Vader in that he is just menacing, and to see this sort of like pouty baby and to have Adam Driver have such a like striking, often bizarre sort of presence and feel and look is just a really like bold thing to do in a blockbuster like this. And I mean, they obviously butcher it at the end. I don't want to step on Aubrey's stuff, but like where they took this character and his relationship with Rey and everything, I thought like this is some of the best acting in a Star Wars movie. It's some of the best character work in a Star Wars movie. And I don't think that those movies are nearly as good if you have anybody other than Adam Driver in that role.
Yeah.
Going to what Case said.
Completely agree. I think what makes that such an interesting choice or an effective choice is that it's fitting of the time because of his age and the type of person he is. That's the type of that age group is like that. That's how we are. I'm emotional and I'm moody and I have issues and I'm trying to deal with them.
People are human.
Yeah, there's more room for that type of complexity, and Adam Driver's the right person to do it, because his introduction at the very beginning of the film is really good, and it establishes that he is someone you do not trifle with him. We don't mess with him. He is ruthless. We can make fun of all of the stuff that comes after that, sure, but also you don't cross any lines with him, which I think is important to set up that juxtaposition. And it's just a good thing of like, you needed someone this talented to play this role because it saves what's happening. Because this, to me, is the most watchable of the three. I think it's the most effective for what it's trying to do in terms of reestablishing Star Wars as an interesting and engaging story. I think it's the most effective in doing that. I also think how does someone like Adam Driver go from Girls and Francis Ha to Star Wars?
Yeah.
The bit is you get someone that's not a huge star. Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Adam Driver. They hit on two of those three. And they hit the biggest on this one, and that's the most important one, I think, because he carries all this. He's the most interesting thing that's happening. To me, someone who's not a Star Wars mega fan, he's the most interesting part for three movies.
When they introduce him, he's young and in power because he's powerful, and you just have to kind of trust it at first. And everyone's already kind of questioning his decisions, and then he offs Max von Sydow, and then someone Oscar Isaac takes a shot at him, and he catches the laser, and you're like, oh, that's why everyone's listening to him. It's like,
Yeah,
he's a moody baby, but he's not to be messed with because he's really good at the one thing only like two people in the universe can do. It's like, okay, I understand now.
Highest of compliments. 2016 Midnight Special, a movie that I really thoroughly enjoy, from one of my favorite underrated directors, Jeff Nichols, who did Take Shelter. I hate making this pun, but he is essentially the driver of the plot in this film as Agent Sevier. His job is to do the investigation of what's going on with Michael Shannon, who is Jeff Nichols' favorite actor of all time because he puts him in every movie he ever does. But he's really driving the plot. It kind of reminds me a little bit of his character in The Report, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, similar vein. But a great movie. If you haven't had a chance to watch Midnight Special, you should.
That's such a good observation. He is moving the plot.
Mm-hmm.
I watched this movie for the first time. It's an interesting movie. It's a good movie. But I mean, you put Michael Shannon in anything and it's going to be good. Like, this cast is solid.
Yeah.
Adam Driver doesn't do a ton. If you're coming here for that, I think you'd be a little bit disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
But he does move the story along. His character's necessary. I wish I got more of it because I was very intrigued by what he was doing and what he was trying to uncover. So I wish I would have saw more of that. It's a good movie, though.
Let's go to highest critic score, though, which is 2016's Patterson, and James drew this one.
Yeah, so Patterson has a 96% critic score and a 72% audience. 96 is a wild score.
Yeah.
So he plays not only the title character, but it also takes place in Patterson, New Jersey. So Patterson, Adam Driver himself, is a hardworking bus driver in Patterson, New Jersey, who follows the same routine every day. He observes the city and listens to fragments of conversations while picking up and dropping off his passengers. He also writes heartfelt poems in a notebook. He walks his dog, drinks precisely a single beer after his shift is over, and then goes home to his lovely wife, Laura, who's a champion for his natural gift of writing. I will say, similar to Matti's review, this is very much a slice of life movie, and it is one of those that I expected to dislike and was shocked at how much I enjoyed from it. But it did take me a while to digest kind of what I had seen. Driver got some of the best reviews of his career from this movie as the poetry writing bus driver, and I agree. He finds like a subtle kind of grace in this life of an ordinary man. He's won a few awards for the role as well. The movie is slow, no doubt, and it is somewhat plotless, but I feel like a lot of poetry in general that once you kind of finish it and you start to put together kind of what it means to you specifically as it sits with you. It's a subtle philosophical film that kind of captures the balance of working a normal 9 to 5 while also trying to create art, which I guess affects a lot of artists. And I assume especially poets who don't have a lot of outlets for commercial success that these artists have to navigate. But the movie doesn't feel like the need to romanticize the struggle that you see in a lot of movies or kind of downplay the work as just a day job. In this movie, like, the work and art is kind of all part of it. And he finds kind of the art in his day job, whether that is in like the small moments where he's eavesdropping on people to even the small negative moments as well. I would say I liked it, but I am closer to the audience score than I am to the critic score. It shocked me actually how much I did enjoy it while I was watching it, because it doesn't really tell you where it's going, and it doesn't really tell you what its message is. You kind of have to digest that and figure it out after the fact. So I can understand why some people didn't like it, which is why I think I'm closer to the audience score, which is like a low 70s, where I did enjoy it, but I didn't think it was a masterpiece, which a lot of people do.
Patterson reminds me a lot of Columbus from 2017 with John Cho and Haley Lou Richardson. Have you guys seen that?
I have not. That's been on my list for a long time, though.
Slow pacing. Both films are slow pacing, and both films avoid being pretentious, which I think can happen when you have a film that is about poetry, right? Where he's telling these stories. And what I think is so remarkable about this movie and his role is, we just talked about like the stark difference between girls to Kylo Ren, and then you go from Kylo Ren to Patterson, which is just a really subtle, understated role. It's the exact opposite of what you get with Kylo Ren being this boisterous, evil villain. So I just think it shows his range, his ability to go up and down that ladder, all these different types of characters, and throwing in that zany character from This Is Where I Leave You shows this dude can pretty much play any role.
I'll say some interesting facts I found about this movie is he actually did get his commercial driver's license for this movie so that he could actually drive the city buses. He did it so that they didn't waste any days or money on filming using a stunt driver. And he also wanted the character to seem natural in those scenes where he's eavesdropping on people, which is odd because it takes you like months to get that license. And he's like, yeah, I didn't want us to hire a stunt driver, or small budget, small film, and add a couple of days. Like, you added 3 months to your work schedule, but yeah, sure.
You just never know if this acting thing's really going to pan out, so you got to have a backup plan.
Yeah, for real.
He's got a CDL. He knows Morse code. This guy's preparing for the future.
Yeah, I love this movie. This one's been on my list for a long time. Unsurprising, if you've been paying attention, it's unsurprising that, one, this movie was on my watch list and very high, and two, that I love it. It sounds a little bit cliche to be like, this is the movie, like very movie nerd cliche to be like, the small indie, small budget indie movie, that's the great performance that I've been waiting for. But it is very true in this. Like, I like nuanced and subtle acting. I think that's when we can see the full breadth of what an actor can really bring to something, is when they can do it subtly, quietly, and still evoke a lot of emotion and a lot of thought. Mm-hmm. That's what he does in this. But I think Driver is like out of this world good in this. What he does with his character, how he kind of moves through what's going on, how he brings some of the themes that they want to bring out, how he pulls those to the forefront. He's outstanding in this.
Yeah.
It's not something I would recommend to everybody, but this is the thing I look at and say, he is a top tier actor, and this was the first thing I would cite.
You mean you're not going to have your kids watch this? This very fast-paced film? I'd love it. I'd be big fans. They would, I'm sure, love to get more into film if you showed them this.
I feel like you're shooting at me right there, and I don't appreciate it. No, I would not have them watch this. I stand by showing them Jackie.
As you should.
Thus far in his career, I have a question for you guys. It seems like there's a trend of him playing this slice of life movie / characters. Is it because he's just perfect for those roles, or is it that he's able to take these characters that are written and add nuance and do different things with them?
I think, and this is my speculation, I think this is where his passion is as an actor. I think he likes this.
Okay.
Based on kind of like his TED Talk and what I've seen, I think his favorite part of his military experience was meeting all the different characters that are in the military. I think he enjoys telling these stories that are often untold. And so he'll do, the Kylo Rens, because that's how you get the opportunity then to choose movies like this, where money is not an issue anymore. And so I get to choose these small indie roles where I can showcase my skills in something that might not ever be commercially successful.
I agree with that.
Okay, interesting. It's a good take.
I think he's a person that's interested in doing interesting things.
Okay.
And so when I heard him talk about Kylo Ren, he talked about what they were trying to do specifically with that character. He found that interesting. In terms of his character selection, I think it's a bit of both. He likes doing this, but his nuances and his talent make these things bigger than they are. And so they cast him because I also think he's handsome, but he's not overbearing.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can't cast certain people to play supporting roles or slice of life characters. I think he fits into that mold really well while still being movie star handsome.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That's a great point. He's not so handsome that he can't play a supporting role. That's an interesting point.
And then his talent comes in on the back end of that, and it's top tier. So the work you're getting from it is also incredible, which makes it look even bigger. So I'd say it's both.
Also crazy how many just like truly incredible directors he works with, across the board. There's one notable exception that I don't even know if we have it listed in the thing of 65, which I don't understand at all. But like, if you look at even Patterson is Jim Jarmusch, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got Midnight Special. You've got Logan Lucky from Steven Soderbergh. He works with Martin Scorsese. He works with Spike Lee, and Noah Baumbach, obviously. It's crazy, how across the board good his selections are. It's like, I mean, it makes sense that he's number one in the critic meter, but like even somebody like Leonardo DiCaprio has some duds. And I just there's movies that I don't like of his, but it's like,
it's not a bad movie. You just don't like it.
Yeah. Or I understand the Gambit, it's crazy how incredible his run is.
He hits. His product choice is really, really good.
But I mean, I guess they have to want him too. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to misquote him, but I think that's intentional. I think I've heard him talk about that's one of the things he wants to do is work with great people.
Okay.
Which appears to be clear with how he goes about it, is that he's not really wasting any shots out of the gun. He's going right for it each time.
He has helped these directors get movies made. And so there's a lot going in here. But I didn't mean to derail us on a Munson Meter preview. I just, looking at this, dawned on me so far this is his character. And as I'm looking up here, further down the road, we don't see as many slice of life projects.
No, I think he gets so big that it slice of life becomes like a younger actor's game at that point in time, and he starts joining the Ridley Scotts of the world and all these other folks in just big budget productions, right?
Yeah.
He's a movie star now.
Yeah, he's a bona fide leading star by this point in his career, which takes him to SNL, and he hosted it 4 times. And to what Matti mentioned earlier, he's got some legendary skits, and I put a couple of them in the show notes. So Undercover Boss, where he goes undercover as Kylo Ren, is so good.
That one's great.
Absolutely hysterical.
The one that gets me, I don't think you have it here, is when he plays the frustrated teacher.
Oh, or when the science teacher, when they just can't get it. Yeah.
So fucking funny. I think there's 2 of them. They're so funny.
That's a good recurring one. Yeah, the Kylo Ren makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Leslie is just screaming at him because, come on, he can't put together whatever engineering basic thing that needs to be done. And yeah, it's good. Yeah. Nothing beats Career Day, though. That's his best skit on SNL. That's number 1, top of the list.
That was the oil prospector?
The oil prospector, the oil baron. What do you do all day? Perhaps that was not clear. This dead bird. No one can keep it straight. He's just the intensity that he brings to it is so cool. I mean, we just came out Will Ferrell, who is an SNL legend, but the Airplane Baby one's also fantastic. That got him a Primetime Emmy nom, but I think it just goes to show he was taking on like a bunch of serious roles, and the dude can make people laugh and has a sense of humor. And I think that, again, shows a little bit more of what he can bring to the table. But his next film was not what you would call a funny film, and that is Silence by Scorsese. With him and Andrew Garfield, he played Father Groupie.
Yeah, I love this movie. Maybe this is a hot take, but of the like last couple of Scorsese's films, this is probably my favorite. I think it's just beautiful. It's really meditative. I do think that it's more Andrew Garfield's movie than Adam Driver's, but
It is.
But both of them are fantastic in this. I
waited a long time for this. It was really just I thought it was going to be homework. So it was like, I want to watch it, but I'm like, how hard is this going to be? So you never really want to watch it. And the first thing I did when I called my wife and when I was done was just like, I'm an idiot. This movie is incredible. I don't want to start talking about it too much because I'll talk about it forever. I think this movie is beautiful. It's amazing. Andrew Garfield is incredible.
Yes.
Adam Driver's character is a really interesting one. I think he'll be even more interesting on a second watch based on how everything plays out with Andrew Garfield's character, because I found the kind of push and pull between the two of them to be interesting at the time, because Andrew Garfield is playing a little bit more high and loose with the Catholic rules, and Adam Driver seemed to be a little bit more rigid. So I'm really interested to look at that again. What this movie has to say about religion, oppression, the white savior idea, missions as a practice inside a religion, the comparison to what the Japanese leaders are doing to these people and Christianity. I found that those parallels to be really interesting. There are some deep themes that need to be explored, and they are brought to the forefront beautifully in this movie. It's perfect, and this is a movie that everyone should see.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's slept on. It's definitely slept on.
Yeah.
Although this is not a Daniel Craig podcast, we do need to get into Logan Lucky, and we should talk about Adam Driver's character as the bartender with one arm. But do you go to Logan Lucky to hear Daniel Craig's accent. Let me tell you.
This movie is another slept on.
I love Logan Lucky.
I go to Logan Lucky to see Riley Keough. So
yeah, fair.
Is she one of them ones? Let's talk. But
that's a fact.
Yeah, it's the foghorn leghorn Southern accent that's never actually existed, and I love when he does it. It's great in every movie he does it in. I was like, this is not an accent that has existed since, I don't know, maybe like Southern debutantes. I don't even think I think it's just for cartoons, and I love when he does it. But I love this movie. It is told from a perspective of people that are usually mocked in movies and not portrayed as being smart. And it's quick and funny and heartfelt. And it tells a story of like a country family that thinks it's so unlucky that it's cursed, AKA poor. And they use that to advantage to try to pull off a heist. It's like,
they're hardcore criminals, and we're rooting for them every step of the way.
Yeah. You're like, you could do this. You got this.
But it's using that to kind of subvert your expectations. I remember one of the reviews I listened to when this movie came out was the person was from the South, and they were mad because they didn't like the accents in this movie.
I mean, the accents aren't good. They're not good. Adam Driver's is not good either. Yeah.
And I think that's what allows it to be accessible to me, is that like you get what they're doing because those are not real Southern. No one talks like that. And so it's like, it's not real, but they're playing something to create an expectation so they can subvert it. And it's brilliant. This movie's awesome. It's a great heist movie.
It's so funny.
It's another example of where Driver, he's happy to be the lead, and especially in some of these upcoming films, but he just quietly melds in as a supporting character in the cast, the ensemble, does his job. Yeah, his accent's not good, but I don't care. Like, you're going there for something completely different.
I like his like dry humor at the end when he's like, well, how do you know they're not tracking your phone? He's like, well, I stopped paying my cell phone bill like 6 months ago and it hasn't turned off yet. He's like, you come up with that all by yourself? He's like, yeah. He's like, that's a pretty good idea.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Same year, another Baumbach film, right? Meyerowitz Stories, alongside Emma Thompson.
Critically well received.
Didn't you review it for the Emma Thompson episode? I'm pretty sure you did, Case.
Come on.
I'm 90% sure you reviewed this.
Come on.
I don't want to throw you under the bus here, but I'm pretty sure you reviewed this for the Emma Thompson episode.
I think it's 3 movies that he has that I haven't seen, and this is one of them.
Yeah, I don't think you're missing much.
It's fine. I mean, it's very long, and I feel like with Noah Baumbach movies, I always like the shorter ones, and they're so personal that I like the ones that I've kind of like experienced myself, which is maybe makes me a shallow movie viewer. But like Frances Ha and The Squid and the Whale and Marriage Story.
Yeah.
Those ones are the ones that like I grasp onto, and I didn't find a lot in the Meyerowitz stories, despite that being great acting. But when you're there for a long time, it's tough.
I mean, it's good actors. It's Ben Stiller and Dustin Hoffman are the main two.
And Adam Sandler, I think, right?
And Adam Sandler, yeah, it's them all coming together.
Yeah.
They don't have great relationships with their father, and they're coming to celebrate him and his artistic work. And Case is starting to recollect that he reviewed this.
I definitely reviewed this, and I don't remember Driver from it. So
I don't either.
That's right. If the critics loved it, I loved it.
There you go. It's just another Baumbach connection. So we'll just make that. We'll draw that. He's got 2 roles that are hugely critically acclaimed with awards. And the first one is BlacKkKlansman. He plays Flip. He got Oscar, Critics' Choice, Golden Globe, SAG, and BAFTA noms for his role. And Aubrey Plaza made a joke about him at the Independent Spirit Awards of the fact that he wasn't there because he was at the Oscars. She actually made a joke about him 2 years in a row. First one is that I'm sure they'll do the white thing because this was when the Oscars So White thing was going on. And he was the only person nominated from a film with a bunch of African-American actors. So,
yeah, it's unfortunate.
But it doesn't diminish. He's excellent in this film. The movie's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Was this the one where he was like law enforcement guy in Colorado or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
It's based on a true story.
Yeah, he's Jewish, doesn't really connect to his Jewish faith, but he has to infiltrate a local chapter of the KKK. As Ron Stallworth.
I did like that when John David Washington was like, yeah, man, like, they hate Jews. He's like, I don't like really give a shit. It's like, that's not like my thing. He's like, all right, well, I need a white guy to work with me here. So you're doing it. He's like, all right, fine.
I need the right white.
Yeah.
I think what he does is a really hard thing to do in this movie because the John David Washington thing is really what we're all there for. The black guy infiltrating the KKK, and it's hilarious and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But there's a point in the movie, it's actually right before the scene that James was talking about, where he's like, yo, this isn't easy. Like, this is crazy for me. Like, this is hard. Why are we doing this?
Putting his life on the line.
It's an important perspective from him because sometimes that stuff can get lost in these things.
Right.
And so he plays an important role at broadening the scope of this movie. And I think that's one of the reasons why it works so well for, the people that saw it, because this is Spike's most critically successful movie in a while from awards and stuff like that. And so I think that's one of the reasons why it works so well, is because he broadens the scope a little bit outside of that. And Adam Driver is just the perfect person to do that.
That scene where he's chasing him down, he takes the guy's gun and he shoots wildly. You see like how crazy he gets, and he's dropping some hard words there. But again, he's got to play a particular role.
Yeah.
Some hard words.
I love when at the end when he gets out of the car to help John David Washington, and he just throws his badge at the cop, and he's like, "Undercover, you fucking idiot!" Like it's said with such disdain, in a really intense scene. It made me just die laughing.
You guys know I'm big on this type of situation. As far as I can tell, the first time he's played a real person, and won't be the last time.
Oh. Jay was very excited about that nugget of wisdom last week. He was like, oh, that's a great super fact.
And we got 2 big ones coming up.
That's true.
Yeah, next year he plays Noah Baumbach, right?
Especially.
Or how Noah Baumbach sees himself.
Kylo's not real?
Well,
not yet.
Real to me, damn it.
The whole helmet thing, I was like, I can't tell.
Life could exist out there. There's a lot of life in the universe, I bet. So a movie that I had never heard of or seen before, and I don't think it's a good movie, but I like interesting concepts. Did anybody else watch The Man Who Killed Don Quixote?
Not seen it.
No, but I have some familiarity with it on some research.
You guys are watching Silence and shit. I was watching The Man Who Killed Adam Driver plays Toby, who is a disillusioned film director. He's pulled into a world of time-jumping fantasy when a Spanish cobbler believes himself to be Sancho Panza. He basically creates this film with this local guy played by Jonathan Pryce. And ever since the movie, he's convinced that he's Don Quixote. Like, Adam Driver goes back and he ends up getting thrown into this world where he has to like play along with this guy's delusion to save the day and to save the girl. It is a bizarre, weird, probably not a great movie, but I will never forget The Man Who Killed Don Quixote because Jonathan Pryce goes so hard in the paint. He keeps calling him Sancho. And so Adam Driver's just like, fuck it. All right, I'm Sancho. Whatever we're going to do. How do we get out of this pickle? And he knows he's like not helping this guy in the slightest, but it's like this hero story that is unbelievably ridiculous.
Terry Gilliam directed this?
Yeah.
The same guy who directed
Yeah.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
I think this is where the reputation he has about helping directors make the movies they want to make, I think it begins with this movie. It was budgeted for $18 million and it only world grossed 2.4. There are a lot of articles about Adam Driver helping directors make what they want. And I mean, you talk about a great reputation to have. And I think it started with this movie, Kyle.
He and Price are the only two like really noteworthy actors in the film. So it's not a shock. But let's go to Marriage Story. Charlie, Oscar, Critics' Choice, Golden Globe, SAG, BAFTA noms. So the same gamut. Didn't win, but still got the noms for that. Didn't win the Oscar. And another Aubrey Plaza quote of how he wasn't at the ISA Spirit Awards because he was cheating on them. And she goes, I checked your phone. Who the hell is Oscar? And it still makes me laugh to this day.
I think it was Ari was saying about like, you know, you always like the display of the subtle acting. This is sort of like the capital A acting, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's a great scene, you know, the classic, he hits the wall and that whole argument. It's very, very good scene, but this is absolutely capital A Oscar acting. I'm a child of divorce, so I have like a lot of baggage coming into a movie like this, but I found it very frustrating that, to me personally, based on the film and what it laid out, is that there was somebody that was far more culpable in the ending of the marriage, and I found that rather frustrating, that it was relatively one-sided in my opinion of who was wrong, and I don't think that the film thought that. So that might just be my interpretation of it, but
from a different perspective, I do think you were accurate in your assumption that there is someone based on the story who is more culpable. What I took from it, though, is that even though he is more culpable, his character, in what leads to the divorce initially is amicable, and it doesn't end that way. And so the way I interpreted it was more so of how our current kind of divorce system forces people to make these decisions based on things that aren't actually there in their relationship, where it's like she has a lot of money, he doesn't. They seem to have an agreement on what's going to happen when they divorce. And then when they get to their lawyers are like, what are you, fucking nuts? Like, of course we're not doing what you want to do. Like, you have to do this extreme version of this. And they're both like, we don't really want to do that. And then by the end of it, it is kind of built into that where it's like, no, we don't have a choice. We have to do that. But yes, I think it's pretty clear that he is the reason why this relationship is ending.
Yeah, that's a fair read. I just think that like that point of how divorce kind of like destroys a relationship and a family and everything like that would be more effective if there wasn't so much of like, I can pin this on one thing that you did. And obviously, you know, there's stuff that she does that doesn't help or anything like that. But for me, I found it very like frustrating that it was clearly Noah Baumbach dealing with his actual divorce and going through that in this way. And it just felt very personal and specific. And there was a right person, in my opinion, a right person and a wrong person. And that felt very frustrating given that the film was trying to kind of make this more of a sort of like a heartbreaking thing. And to me, it felt just like, well, fuck this guy. But I think that's a lot of baggage that I'm bringing to it personally.
Did it feel over 2 hours long?
I don't think so. I don't know. I've only seen this movie once, and I'll probably never watch it again, to be honest.
Same.
I love this movie a lot.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I think what you say is interesting in a lot of. I just spent a lot of time thinking about it because I just find well stated interpretations that are different than mine. It makes me want to go watch the movie again because that ultimately that's what this all is anyways. It's all interpretation. It's what you bring to it. It's what you take away from it. It's what you're experiencing at the time. So they're none of them are invalid. So it makes me go, okay, what did I miss? Is there something different there? Because my interpretation was different. But I more so find it funny that all of you guys are like, I've only watched this one movie one time. I'll never watch it again. I think I've seen it 3 or 4 times, and I'd watch it right now. I don't know what that says about me. Also, as a child of divorce, I don't know what that says about me.
Trauma porn.
Yeah.
No.
Because I like slice of life movies, but I also like movies that are relatively simple, but are trying to accomplish profound things. What I like about this movie is it takes something familiar, but also relatively simple, and it expands it in a way that allows us to see how mundane it can be. And in that mundanity, that's where I find the tragedy of it. Yes, Adam Driver is wrong, and Adam Driver does a wrong thing there, and that may be the final straw or the thing that actually ends the marriage. But I think the way that I viewed it is the marriage was falling apart anyways. The tragedy is in the fact that this once loving marriage, this once loving couple, no longer can be in a room with each other. So I think this movie is absolutely brilliant. But I also completely understand why nobody would want to watch it. I totally get it.
Art. That's art, baby. Well, speaking of movies that some of us don't want to watch, how about that torture porn in The Report, James?
Listen, I'm not saying it's a bad movie. It's just I'm like a half hour in, and my house isn't big enough where I could watch someone be waterboarded and not have the fear of waking up all the women in my house and be like, oh, what do you watch? I was like, oh, I'm just watching someone get tortured for an hour and a half. I can't do it. So I had to stop. I bet it's a great story to tell. I could not finish it.
So you didn't get a chance to see Adam Driver complete The Report? That was, 500 pages? Or how many pages?
7,000 pages.
7,000 pages.
That he whittled down to 500.
Yeah, the executive summary is 500. That's right.
My assumption is that he did the right thing. That's what I hope the ending of the story was.
Yeah, he does some unethical things, but for good reasons, I guess.
One massively unethical thing.
Edward Snowden, like.
I don't know how good they were either. This is a process movie. That's all I'll say about it. I mean, there's torture porn for sure, but there's also competence porn, which is, I always like those types of movies.
It just takes a few people in succession in positions of power to be like, just do what I say and look past following the rules before all of a sudden you have like a full-blown international crisis on your hands.
Yeah.
What he does a good job selling for you is how long he spent building 7,000 pages of something and how frustrating it would be to have them just go, well, I guess we're never going to release it. Like, yeah, I'd probably do some unethical shit too to make sure people read my fucking report. It's a long time.
Just watching someone work really hard to discover and investigate something is just interesting, and coming out and finding all these things and then the passion that ensues from finding all these things is interesting. What I think hurts the movie and why it doesn't ultimately work, it's too much of a response. Its point of view is so one-sided that it doesn't make sense to me that it's a movie. Why is this not just a documentary?
Yeah.
Because I don't mind a point of view being one-sided. I don't mind, like, Spotlight is a process movie that has a one-sided POV. I totally get it, and I love Spotlight. It's a perfect movie. That thing is great. I think when you're dealing with something like this, where there are complexities and nuances in what is going on, and it name checks Zero Dark 30 in the film, it becomes a thing where it's like, I'd rather you just tell me the actual story if you're going to tell me the actual story. Like, don't make a movie when you're going to tell the story.
You'd have to change the format to do it a documentary because, I mean, you could make one that one-sided, but it's not going to be respected by anybody who understands how documentaries are made. So that's the problem.
He, however, is great because carrying a process movie is not easy to do.
Yeah.
You're essentially watching someone read documents, and it's very compelling for 2 hours.
All right, Aubrey, tell us why he lost the MTV Best Villain role to Eric Killmonger in 2019 because of his role in Star Wars Rise of Skywalker.
Killmonger was a much more compelling villain. So there's not really a review that you need to lay out for Rise of Skywalker.
No.
So I'm just going to get right into it. I think this movie's terrible. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. I've seen all of them. I like most of them. I really enjoy watching The Force Awakens. The Last Jedi I like for its ambition and its filmmaking more than I like for its story. But I do think that this movie suffers from delivering on promises made. And what you get is a movie that's trying to please everyone and ultimately pleases no one because they botched the Kylo Ren story. They botched the Kylo Ren and Rey thing. I don't know what they're doing with Finn and Poe.
Spoiler.
They have to deal with legacy characters. They botched that, which is not entirely their fault. Was a little bit unfortunate what they had to deal with. This movie's a mess. It's got too much going on while not really accomplishing anything. It's the perfect modern blockbuster failure.
Yeah.
So you're on the critic side, is what I'm hearing.
Very much so. I've only seen this movie twice, and I've seen The Force Awakens probably 6 times because I just don't watch this movie.
Yeah. It seems like Force Awakens, they satisfied both populations, right? Critics and fans. They made some direction or they made some choices. Instead of telling the story they wanted to tell, it felt like maybe they were trying to aim and land something where both critics and audience were going to join with them. And that's a story like this, like with legacy characters. And I mean, you got people that have been fans of these movies since the 70s. There's no way you're going to satisfy fans and critics.
I think a couple of things really hurt them. They did the Rian Johnson thing. Well, they did the TV thing where we're going to have one person write the first movie, one person write the second movie, then another person write the third movie. They bailed on the third director shortly after The Force Awakens. So what Rian Johnson is taking chances. And the third movie has to pay off on those. And J.J. Abrams is not the type of director that's going to take those type of chances and pay off on those type of chances. That's not what he does well. So you have that problem. I mean, Carrie Fisher dies. And that seems to be a weight on this movie that they can't get out from underneath. Like, they made a choice in the second movie that I think was the bad one by not having her die then and using the Force in a way that, from what I understand, had never been used before. When that was a perfect way to do that, and it kind of crumbles under the weight of that.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you said, and I think like the single biggest mistake for like these 3 movies is like one that I don't understand how a company as big as Disney, as big as Lucasfilms could do, is that they clearly did not have a roadmap when they started the first movie.
Yep.
You can't have too much of a roadmap. I understand that you got to let Rian Johnson do his thing. But the fact that they let J.J. Abrams set up a bunch of shit that he had no intention of paying off, and then let Rian Johnson come in, and regardless of how you feel about that movie, he cut the trilogy in the legs and I think that movie ended in a really interesting way if that was the third movie, but they already agreed to make a third movie, and then there was nothing there for them to jump off of. So it just feels like all 3 movies are a completely disjointed mess. And I just genuinely don't understand if you spend, what is it, like $6 billion on the rights to Star Wars, that you don't have some sort of, here's part 1, part 2, part 3, like why would you do that? So I don't know, but I agree. You said
at some point in time, you got to let your guys, when you look at your movie and you're like, I need to make this movie work, you let the guys, the people that can go, you let them go. John Boyega is a great actor. Give him more to do. Oscar Isaac's a great actor. Give him more to do. Adam Driver's your best actor. Give him everything to do. You hit the jackpot with these people. Fall back on that. Let them carry this thing all the way to the end.
Well, I'll take us to another movie that is a little bit controversial, and that's 2021's Annette, plays Henry. I've got a question for somebody who loves the net. I want to diagnose. I want to ask some questions. I'm guessing they really love musical theater.
I watched a good 3 songs of it before I stopped right before we started recording. And yeah, it's like musical theater. If musical theater was about kind of how the life of fame sucks, I can't, based on what you guys have said, is it only goes further down the rabbit hole. The first 3 songs are pretty much about how like being famous isn't great.
Further down the rabbit hole is the perfect description because this movie is nonsense.
If you're interested in seeing Adam Driver sing a lot.
Kyle, is this Driver's first producer credit?
I think so. Yeah, he's only got 2.
That's interesting. He won't watch a film that he's in, but he'll produce a film where he's singing the whole time.
Yeah, he just produced this and Ferrari. Those are the only 2.
All right.
He does something different. I'll give him credit there.
Yeah.
But it is not my kind of movie in the slightest.
I don't think I've ever even heard of this movie, and you guys sound like you're crazy talking about it. Like it sounds like a fever dream.
The movie is a fever dream.
Okay.
He's a stand-up comedian who is not funny. I don't understand his shtick. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's morbid and it's boring, honestly. I just don't get it.
So he's got a couple misses, but mostly bangers.
It's not a miss. Critics like it.
This isn't a miss, though.
Critics like it.
This is critically well received.
Okay.
It's a bizarre film.
50 minutes of this movie that I watch, it's just insane.
He calls him out at the end.
The musical sequence at the sex scene, it's just weird. This movie's also 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Too much.
A movie that is long, but underrated as hell. The Last Duel. He plays Jocks. I know it lost a bunch of money.
Yeah.
But that movie going between 3 perspectives on a really awful situation was so underrated, and it was just the timing was poor with Matt Damon, Adam Driver. It's a fantastic film.
You want to know what the McKays do on a weekend night? We sit down and we watch The Last Duel. This movie is amazing. I love this movie so much. And even watching it again, there are some things that don't fully work for me. I honestly wish this movie was longer and I could get more of what's going on. If this was a series, I'd watch it. But man, this movie is awesome. It's awesome in all the ways Ridley Scott can be awesome. What the actors are asked to do is really compelling to me because they have to do the same thing 2 to 3 different ways.
Yeah.
Which, again, requires supreme talent to just change the way you look at someone or change the way you say something or just change the way you respond to something. And to do that and change the entire context of how that thing then works is really hard to do. And I think Adam Driver is masterful in this. I think all 3 of them are.
Jodie Comer.
Ben Affleck kills also.
Yep.
This is a great movie.
I think also with the subject matter, there's like a risk at this being extremely gratuitous and extremely untasteful. And I think, far be it for me to be the arbiter of that, but like, in my opinion, it does a really good job at showing what it needs to show to get it across and deliver on the premise and the Rosh Hashanah aspect of the film, but it doesn't do it in a way that feels like it's exploiting or manipulative or shocking for the sake of shock. And then at the very end you get like one of the coolest duels that you've ever seen in cinema. This movie's phenomenal. I loved this movie.
Great point.
I'm ride or die from Matt Damon though.
It shows that sequence in the way that Adam Driver, a person who at the time we don't fully know if we should hate or is villainous, how he would internalize that and then shows it for what it actually is, which to me heightens the horrific nature of it.
Give it its due that it didn't get in the box office. We got a few biggies left to get to. White Noise is the latest Baumbach film that he's in alongside Greta Gerwig, and he got a Golden Globe nom for that role. Yeah, it was big time for a few years there, but he hadn't had anything in 4 years since Marriage Story. But you know what we need to get into? We got to get into the lowest critic score, which is the Netflix picture 65. Plays Mills, and I drew this one. And I'm here to tell you, the split, it says something that 36 is his lowest critic score. I mean, that says something. A lot of times every episode we get into, we have like 9 or a 10, like ungodly low. He doesn't have anything really in that stratosphere. If you look on Rotten Tomatoes, the consensus would say it's a sodden sci-fi that finds a way to basically ruin Adam Driver fighting dinosaurs. 65 is closer to 0, which I thought was kind of hurtful.
Hey, critics' words hurt.
Wait. You like this movie?
I do. And it's in the same vein that I like the Don Quixote movie, because I don't consider it anything more than what it is. It's just a silly concept of he travels back in time. I mean, after a catastrophic crash on an unknown planet, Mills, played by Driver, discovers he's stranded on Earth 65 million years ago. It's really a father-daughter tale. You know, they set up early on that his daughter's sick, and that's why he has to take on this job. The only other survivor is a young girl from a different culture that doesn't speak his language, who he has to essentially serve as a father figure to keep her alive. His weapons training that he has from his Marine days, he hasn't really used until this point, which I thought was interesting. I don't really remember how they got there, to be completely honest. I know he ran into some wormhole stuff, got hit by some asteroids, and then lands on the Earth. You know, I didn't ask too many questions from that. There's a heart there to the father-daughter story that I didn't mind.
I just thought it just didn't look that good and just like wasn't as cool as like Spaceman Fights Dinosaur could have been. But why did he do this?
There wasn't a ton of trivia.
Oh, why did he, as Adam Driver, do this movie?
Yeah, like why did he choose this movie? It's so bizarre. It's such a bizarre choice given what we talked about, like him working with A-list directors and even the blockbuster stuff that he does. I mean, I don't think he had a great experience on Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So like he hasn't really done anything that big since. And this isn't Star Wars big, but this is just like the one film that I'm like, why?
I immediately looked to see if he produced it.
Maddie, it sounds like you wanted more of a documentary out of this one.
Yeah, I wanted a one-sided documentary again.
Aubrey liked it too. So
yeah.
Is it shocking?
No, you're a creature feature guy, you know?
Cool guy fights dinosaurs. All right. Yeah.
But poorly.
You're talking to a guy who unequivocally and unashamedly loves Jurassic Park 3. I don't care.
I do also love Jurassic Park 3, so maybe I'm just a hypocrite. I don't know.
I think I'm closer to Matti's review on this, where it's like, I think it's actually a really cool concept that's just not executed in a way where it's like, I think a space guy hitting the wrong button, going to the wrong spot, and ending up on this unknown planet that just happens to be Earth. And then it happens to be when dinosaurs ruled. And he's like, oh shit, like I'm going to get eaten. Very cool concept.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like the whole time it's like a little boring.
Yeah, nerd.
It's like a little forced on the relationship between him and the girl, where the whole time I was like, dude, put that girl back. Like, she's clearly not there alone. Like, go leave her alone. Like, what are you doing? And it's like, oh, it's a father-daughter relationship. It's like, all right, well then build that emotion. Because instead of building the emotion, it was more like, oh, we don't speak even close to each other's language. All right, well, you'll get it by these hand gestures. Dinosaurs, chomp, chomp, chomp. She's like, yeah, we get the same shit. And it was like, I just felt like it was a really cool concept that was like almost a good movie. Like, it's not bad. It was just not good. And I like kind of B movies, B sci-fi movies too.
I agree with all of this.
Same.
The movie's not bad.
Fair.
I just enjoyed it.
That's fair.
It's one of those things where like I don't have a defense. I have no technical arguments that this movie is high quality. I just enjoyed it. I will say, embarrassingly, I was in on this movie immediately for a really stupid reason. So I don't really do a lot of watching trailers. And there's a stretch of time where I didn't watch trailers at all. So I had no idea what this movie was about. All I knew is that Adam Driver was in it. I'm here for that. And he's holding a gun. Okay, cool. Let's go watch Adam Driver shoot things. I show up and they make the reveal that it's 65,000 years ago. And I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I had no idea that's why the movie was 65. I was immediately in. I'm like, oh, okay, this is dope.
Very cool.
And from that point on, it never took me out of it.
Cool concept.
It's fine.
It's not a 36.
Agreed.
I mean, I think it's a middling 5.
It has a 65% audience score.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Perfect.
incredible.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible.
That's ironic.
Jim Carrey in 23.
Hold off
It's
the reviews.
65%. It's only got 65 reviews. Came out, it was 65 degrees outside.
Holy shit! This movie world grossed 65 million.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
It's close. It means 60.7.
Yeah,
I
61.
feel like we should put it back in theaters to
Just get over the hump, shut it down.
Just get to the number.
Maybe after listening, they'll do that. Who knows? All right, well, let's round this thing out. So he plays he's in House of Gucci and Ferrari in these more later years, more recent. Plays Enzo Ferrari, another real person.
And Michael Mann was trying to get this movie made for, I think, 20 years. And not only did Driver push it over the top from a star power, I believe he kicked in some of his own cash to get this thing made.
He did. That's the only other producing credit.
What are we doing in the film industry if Michael Mann can't make the movies he wants to make?
I mean, Coppola. We're going to talk about Megalopolis and his upcoming shit. And that he's been trying to get that made since the 70s.
I like Ferrari. Watched this for the first time now. I missed it around Oscar time. I was trying to get to it for that. I like this movie a lot. I think Adam Driver is just really charismatic. The accents are mostly good. Shailene Woodley struggles. I think this movie could have been a lot better with someone different.
What age of Enzo Ferrari is he playing? Is he playing the elder statesman or is he playing the younger version?
He's older.
So how does he do playing a person much older than himself?
It works for me. I didn't see anything in there that was jarring or to take me out of it. It works believably for me. He's such a convincing actor to me that I'm not even really seeing the periphery. I'm kind of seeing the person he's presenting me or the character he's presenting me.
Okay.
So I immediately start buying what he's doing there. I think this movie's good and people should watch it. Also, we skipped House of Gucci. That movie sucks.
But I was just going to be distracted to talk about Jared Leto, so we're just going to keep going there. That's not worth our time.
What I like about both the stories of House of Gucci and Ferrari, it tells the stories of these Italian icons who are just so passionate about creating the perfect version of something that they have in their mind and don't know fuck all how to manage relationships or a business. And I fucking love it. It's like, it is my life's passion to create the perfect race car and everything else around me is going down in flames. It's like, who gives a shit? It's just the most Italian story you could tell.
The character of Enzo Ferrari is interesting to me because as history continues to unfold in automotive and pop culture of that time, he was a super divisive person. To your point, James, I agree with that. It's hilarious that he fits into that mold.
I want to create the world's most beautiful high performance sports car. And they're like, dude, you're going to go bankrupt. And he's like, who cares? It's like, why is that my problem? Who gives a shit? It's like, okay. It's
My
like,
dream. My dream, baby.
He damn near bankrupt Ford while he was at it because they were so determined to beat him. It's wild, man. It's a wild time.
That's influence. The last thing I'll mention before we get to top performances is he founded AITAF, which is Arts in the Armed Forces. If you listen to his TED Talk, he talks a lot about combining kind of his military background with his performing arts career, obviously. He co-founded that nonprofit where they do performing arts for the armed forces, and it's pretty cool. All right, Case, hit us with some top performances.
All right, I have a top 30, but we'll do top 10 performances. Every Adam Driver movie ranked worst to best came out March 29th, 2023. The subline is from indie gems like Not Waving but Drowning to Space operas like Star Wars sequel trilogy. Here are all the Adam Driver movies ranked worst to best.
Movies, not roles.
Movies, not roles.
Marriage Story.
Marriage Story is number 2.
Patterson.
Patterson is number 4.
Midnight Special.
Midnight Special is not on the list.
That's horseshit.
Silence.
Silence is not on the list.
What?
Oh,
What is number 1?
BlacKkKlansman.
Oh, yeah.
BlacKkKlansman is
one.
number 1.
Yeah, there we go.
Logan Lucky.
Logan Lucky is not on the list, but it came in at number 15 on the honorable mention.
Francis Ha.
Francis Ha just missed the list at 11.
Oh, this guy's got some goodies. How about You Don't Know Jack? Sneaky, top 10?
You Don't Know Jack is not on the list.
One of the Star Wars has to be
Star
on there.
Wars.
Yeah, Force Awakens.
Star Wars Last Jedi is number 5.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
Last Duel?
Last Duel is number 6.
Inside Llewyn Davis.
Inside Llewyn Davis is number 3.
Is Lincoln on there?
Lincoln has to be on there. Yeah,
Lincoln did not make the top 10. It is number 13.
don't tell me Annette's on there.
No. I'm sorry, Kyle. His career, top 30 movies ranked from best to worst. Annette comes in at number 30.
Really?
Yes.
About right. About right.
So we are missing 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Oh,
okay.
While we're young.
While We're Young was on honorable mention at 12.
The Report.
The Report is number 8.
J. Edgar?
J. Edgar is not on the list.
Fair.
What are we missing?
We briefly spoke about one of them, and the other two we did not talk about.
Oh,
Is House of Gucci on there?
House of Gucci is not on the list.
Okay.
how about Bluebird?
Bluebird is not on the list.
The Dead Don't Die.
Oh, yeah.
The Dead Don't Die is not on the list.
Oh, no, critics hated that. People hated that movie.
Good movie. It's a lot of fun.
I like it. It's deadpan. It's done. I like it.
One of the three I should have remembered.
Is there Morse code in it?
Nope.
Is it the Morse man?
No, it's the Marowitz stories because I reviewed it once upon a time.
Oh,
That,
wow.
that comes in at number 10.
The Man Who Killed Don Quixote.
Not on the list.
There's no way.
What if?
What If is number 9. Well played, Aubrey.
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about that.
Great movie. Go watch that.
We're missing number 7, which we also didn't talk about.
Baby?
Is that with Daniel Radcliffe?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's a good movie.
Oh, dude, I thought that was like the Marvel thing. That was a movie. I would have watched that.
Yeah.
Number 7 comes out in 2013 by the name of Tracks.
Yeah, that was another one.
Never saw
I
it.
don't even know what that is.
Yep. Go watch What If.
We named like 5 to 7 really good movies that weren't even in the top 10. And this dude's only been acting since like 2012. Like, it's ridiculous.
Important note on Tracks. It is a biopic of an Australian explorer, Robin Anderson. And he plays another real-life person in this movie. So it apparently was well known. This reviewer writes this. I think this is actually an important note as it relates to Driver. He's an actor known for eccentricities on screen, but here he plays it straight, resulting in an interesting contrast to most of his filmography.
All right. All right, let's get into the Munson Meter. What we do, we rate every actor on a scale of 0 to 100 based on a variety of factors. It could include longevity, product choice, pop culture impact, acting range, awards footprint, any other talents they might have, personal life, comedic chops, box office success, and anything else that matters to us as Munsons. We will start this time with Aubrey.
This is equal parts fun and very hard. Because this is the thing that I say that I'm looking for. I want to see great acting and really assess that and find out what it is. He does all of the things that I personally love about acting. He's very subtle. He can communicate a lot of emotions and themes without saying much. He does that prolifically in movies. Silence is a good example of that. Patterson is an extraordinary example of that. He can also be big. The second half of Marriage Story gives you that. Kylo Ren is that. He's funny. He's dramatic. He's intense. He is clever. He is a movie star while still being like an artist. He seems to be the whole package. I don't know what he would have to do to improve upon what he has. I don't know how he can impress me much more. This was probably my favorite time prepping because everything I watched, barring Annette, was sensational. But even Annette is interesting.
Still interesting.
Because everything he does is interesting. I was never bored. You know, Girls was something I didn't like, but I wasn't bored. He is a marvel to me. I think he'll go down as one of the best actors of this generation. I am excited to see everything that he does. He is probably one of the best actors working today. So I will put him where I put those people at. And he will go right there with another one of my favorites. I'll put him at a 95.
I was going to say, you're going to put him right next to Portman, aren't you?
Yep.
That's what's going to happen. All right, Case.
People underestimate his veteran service because he did serve in 3 different armies, the Imperial Forces, the Union Army, the Marine Corps. And I don't think that should be overlooked. I think that range, militaristically speaking, is impressive. But, I mean, you look at the fact that these directors constantly want, like, they intentionally and deliberately work with him, tells me that people that know a lot more about acting than I do seek this guy out. And the fact that he's also willing to support other people and their passion projects, I think is really admirable. I think the one thing that hurts him, in my evaluation at least, is that a lot of his projects that you guys fell in love with when they first came out, I'm just discovering, so they don't hit me as well and as hard as they hit you guys. But I find him fascinating. I find him incredibly talented with a ton of range. And so I'm going to give him a 90.
Okay, Monty.
Yeah, I'll echo similar sentiments. I think he's just a really fascinating actor. Every time he pops up in something, I'm like, oh, he's here. This is great. This is like a stamp of approval in some way.
Yeah.
Which I think is very rare for an actor and very rare for an actor this early in his career. I mean, we talked for 3 hours about 11 years of movies. That's insane.
That's wild.
So like, I think there's a huge amount of future potential that he can have. I think for that reason, I can't, give him like a 100 or something like that, because there's still so much he can do. And that means that maybe he doesn't live up to it. Who knows? But I think what we've seen so far, he's doing everything right, quote unquote, right. I hope he does do another big budget something. I hope Star Wars didn't totally ruin that for him, because I love him in the smaller stuff and I love him in the large stuff. So I think right now there's nothing that he would do that would make me disappointed. So I'm going to give him like a 92 for that reason. Once he, maybe 20 years from now, he'll get those 8 extra points.
All right. I'm going to trash the party a little bit.
Yeah.
I love Adam Driver, but 100 episodes in, I'm a slave to my scale. And the way I measure actors, I put a lot of value on longevity. He's young, right? Like, he's got a lot of work left to do. He's nailed it.
That's why I took 8 points off.
Well, I'm going to tell you why I'm docking other points. And it's, again, it's nothing he can control, right? Like, he hasn't won the awards. He's been nominated for the awards, but he hasn't won any of them. So, like, I can't give him max points there. And speaking of Max von Sydow, like, I gave Max von Sydow an 86, and the dude is decorated, like, for 90 years doing the thing he does. I can't rate him higher than Max von Sydow. I just can't. Based on his career, what he did, I'm kind of a slave to that. Pop culture wise, I mean, the people that know film know Adam Driver, but the general person doesn't know Adam Driver, I don't think. It's not like Will Ferrell last time. Like, that's out of control pop culture. So it's like an 11 out of 15 there. I feel like I have to justify why I'm not going to give him a score with a 9 in front of it. And that's because of the way my scoring works, right? So it's pop culture, it's longevity, it's awards. Like, those are the areas that, and there's just like little things here and there, but like, otherwise, fascinating dude, humble, private, persevered, didn't get into Juilliard, still did his thing. He's incredibly down to earth. He can pretty much do anything. He can emote really well without saying a whole lot. His project choice is great. So like, the dude's a stud. If I reviewed him 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I'd probably give him 90 plus. I'm just not there. So I'm going to give him an 81. I feel like it's pretty good.
Kyle, did you hear me talk about his military service? I think you might have missed that.
I did, but I'd already scored.
Did you know that he knows Morse code?
I'd already scored by then. So,
all right. Fair enough.
The top 10 didn't have Lincoln in the top 10, so I'm a little sour right now. So I'm kind of moving on from that. But James, round us out.
Kyle, I'm so glad that you went first, because I echo your sentiments. I don't say this as a negative because my score is lower. I say it as more of a positive and an indicament of all he's accomplished at such a young age into his career. Is he has not won those awards, and I've put people who have won those awards who are similarly aged as him a little higher than him here. I think the room for growth here is exponential, and I think what we are seeing is just the start of a career as someone who might end up being, the actor of a generation when we're 20, 30 years from now.
Yeah.
I don't think we are there yet. I think one of my favorite things about him is how adaptable he is. I think you see him in a serious role, it's believable. You see him in a romantic role, it's believable. You see him in a funny role, and it's believable. I think all the makings are there to become one of the greatest. But if his career was to end right now, it would always be a what if, right? And so I find it interesting, Kyle, that you mentioned Max von Sydow and how you can't go above him. I gave Max von Sydow an 80, and I am giving Adam Driver the same score that you did, which is an 81.
Look at that parallels drawn.
Do you guys remember that time when Kylo Ren killed Max von Sydow to start a movie?
Superior score should have been given at that point.
Yeah. I can't believe you guys hate Adam Driver.
That's one of the,
all right.
That's one of the reasons why I gave him 1 point higher. Is he's a better fighter, simply put.
So based on my super formal algorithm here in the spreadsheet, Aubrey's going to find this hilarious. That gives Adam Driver an 87.8, which ties him with Natalie Portman for 8th overall. Literally same score.
Nice.
Because I know.
Just behind Maggie Smith and just ahead of Emma Thompson.
Both of them in equally as good Star Wars movies.
His fan ranking is 7th. So, like I said, I like to line up with the fans.
There you go. All right, Aubrey, what's he got coming?
Unfortunately, not a lot. There's 2 things that I'll say because one is in production and one has already been viewed. So, Megalopolis is the Francis Ford Coppola movie that Case mentioned earlier. It has everyone in Hollywood that wasn't in Oppenheimer is in this movie.
That could be your big budget movie, Marty.
Yeah.
Who knows? I've heard introductory stuff. I've heard both sides of it. It's interesting and it's not very interesting. The second movie to me is more interesting, and it's Heat 2.
Yep.
When I heard that Heat 2 was coming out, I was not excited because I'm like, let's just let some things live. And you cast Adam Driver. I see Dune 2, a little bit more interested in Austin Butler. I'm ready to see Heat 2 now.
Okay.
2 big things.
This is pre-Heat, right?
Yeah.
It says sequel of Heat, gives the background and conclusion of the major character story.
It should be Heat 2 warming up. That should be the extended.
I think it's a little bit of both.
I think he's playing the younger version of Robert De Niro.
He's young Neil. Yep.
Hold on, was Heat a true story? Yes.
No fucking way.
No.
Yes, Neil McCauley in the true story behind the movie Heat. The real life Neil McCauley was a career criminal who was killed in Chicago.
Huh.
Things you learn on the Munsons.
Was Wayne Grow real?
It's gotta be.
Wayne's World was not real.
No. Wayne Grow.
Oh.
Wayne's World is very real to me, Case. So don't you fucking chop my legs out.
That guy was heat. No pun intended.
Scotty's on fire. Next podcast is going to hit May 23rd. We've got Dames Marv's coming back. He was with us for J-Law, John Turturro, Daryl Hannah, and Bryan Cranston. Here are the 5 actors the wheel picked from. And I just want to real quick here, everyone's favorite and least favorite of the group. Sam Shepard, Kevin Corrigan, Frances McDormand, Joaquin Phoenix, and Seann William Scott.
I mean, Frances McDormand's won like every award you could possibly win.
Uh-huh.
And Seann William Scott played Stifler, so I think those are probably my 2.
The Stiffmeister over there.
Napoleon.
Brian Cox said was fucking terrible, apparently, allegedly.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix and Frances McDormand. Those would be where I want to see it go.
Marty, if you had to pick another one, who would you pick?
Of these 5, I think, to be on, I think Joaquin Phoenix would be interesting. There's just a lot of sort of big movies that he's a part of. But Frances McDormand would also be really interesting.
Who do we think Dames Marv's picked based on his background in history?
Seann William Scott.
It might be Kevin Corrigan or Seann William Scott. I think he's going to choose something weird.
The movie he said I remember he liked the most of Turturro was like the artsiest Turturro movie. So
he does love a good indie flick.
I'm thinking the 2 heavy hitters here are definitely in play with McDormand and Phoenix.
Well, we don't decide. Dames doesn't decide. Marty doesn't decide. The wheel decides, and we'll see what happens. Marty, We love having you, man. This is the top of the mountain, as we say. Episode 100. I don't know if we'd have anybody else for 100. So,
Yeah.
red carpet moment, my friend.
Aw.
Any plugs, wise words for our audience? It's kind of your floor.
Thank you so much for having me. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, I love being on. It feels like catching up with old friends, and just getting to talk movies is always really fun. Hope to keep doing this and have the years go by. It's been awesome, and congratulations, guys, to 100 episodes. That's not a small feat. That's really, really awesome. So I'm very, very happy for you guys with that as well. So thank you for having me on. And hopefully now this will update the Google thing, and this will be our top episode, right?
Of course.
We'll put it in the description.
Daniel Craig.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Hey, let's not wait another 100 episodes, huh?
Yeah.
One every 20.
So every 20 episodes, right? That's the consistency.
Basically.
It's always great catching up with you, Monty. We really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, guys.
Flag on, baby.
Follow me on YouTube.
All right. Well, as always, you can find us on X, Munsons at Movies. You can find us on Instagram, Munsons at the Movies. You can email us, munsonsatthemovies@gmail.com. Any final thoughts from Adam Driver?
Hey, this sucks! This just sucks!
Munsons out.
All right, let's go. Thank you for the education, gentlemen. We've just received a PhD in stupidity. Doctor, shall we?
For 82 years, I've been an oil man, a baron, some have called me. Now, what does an oil baron do? The answer? Crush your enemies! Grind their bones!